welcome to Silver Screen News with us, the Silver Screen Dudes. I'm Anthony Jordan.
I'm Nico Leroux.
And today is all about the top 10. Last week was dedicated to Bond, so I'm going with my Spectre t-shirt to highlight the situation.
What up, t-shirt reference?
Yeah, that's the one. What it is, this top 10, it starts off as a top 10 of film, whether by category, genre. We have different ways, as I said.
Director, actor, whatever.
Yeah, last week was Bond. This one, I'm going to get into it, but it's a top 10, which you would think is trust me, it's proven difficult. It gets even more difficult when we go for our Mount Rushmore, which means the two of us, I have my top 10, Nick has his top 10, we cram it all in and we have to agree on four as the quintessential, the must-see, the
movies of this genre, type, category, of this actor, of this director.
Yeah, it's the end-all and be-all. And this week, Nick, would you like to give it away as to what we're going for?
I will do. Guys, this week we actually got really good feedback from you guys from last week. Thanks for all the thumbs up. Thanks for all of the messages. One of the messages stuck out. The message comes from Ava Z, who writes the following. Great video, thank you, Ava. Maybe one day you will make an episode about old classic horror movies. I hear a lot of opinion about them. Some are from the 70s and 80s, and I'm really curious what you guys think about them and what you recommend, if you recommend anything at all. Well, Miss Ava, we recommend a lot, and unfortunately, in the names of a very, very great TV character, challenge accepted.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, challenge indeed.
Let me just break this down. So, Ava, and to everyone listening, what we're doing here is we've taken 70s, 80s, but also thrown in one or two from the 90s. Unfortunately, this was a hard list to make.
I want to put out straight away, we didn't touch the 60s, and we didn't
touch the 70s, yeah.
And you've got Hammer. I'm putting it out there. Say what
it's
you will.
It's not in there.
To me, they kicked it off. Hammer kicked it off.
Yeah.
So
Christopher Lee as Dracula was the original and one of the best. You know, guys, if you want to see us do like a top 10 of Hammer or a top 10 of Hitchcock, we'll most likely do. We must do a top 10 Hitchcock.
It's to come. But
and guys,
on this one, because 70s and 80s was mentioned, we've done that, but we had to spread 90s in.
But we also haven't put 21st century classics in, so millennial, post 2000 classics.
Insidious.
You know, Insidious, Blair Witch was 90s. Yeah. Insidious, Paranormal Activity, The Conjuring. They're not in there.
So many.
Not because we don't love them. I mean, The Conjuring scared the hell out of me. The list is too big. From 70s, 80s, and 90s alone. I mean, you could make.
We could have done
a
70s,
top 10. Yeah, easily. But we're not. We're listening to what our fans want. We're going to do a top 10 horror movies. We're going to try at least. Now, I know for a lot of horror fans out there, you're certainly not going to agree with our list, simply as I've just said, because there are too many. Where's that movie? Where's that? You know, let me give you some examples. The Hills Have Eyes, I couldn't put in there. Child's Play, I couldn't put in there. Poltergeist, I couldn't put in there. Braindead, Evil Dead, Dawn of the Dead. That's how difficult this list was. Those classic horror movies, all of which I recommend, by the way, didn't make the top 10. Why?
For you.
For me. Maybe for you they did. Even some of my honourable mentions. You know, last week we didn't do an honourable mentions list. This week it was so difficult. We made 3. Each of us get a bonus 3. We won't ramble on about them, but we'll get through them fast. And the only reason that all the movies I just mentioned and my honourables aren't in the top 10 is because, from my point of view, the top 10 list that I've made, all of the movies are even better. Now, this is where, as movie fans, we're going to disagree, and that's the joy of all of this.
It's preferences. As I was once told, everyone has an opinion. There's the line before it, but I'm not going to go into it. Right. Okay. So what we do is
go on.
Yeah. How do we break it down? We don't just give our rundown. We kind of lock in, because I have opinions, Nick has opinions. So if what I say, let's say for instance, my number 10 is his number 7, we'll stop.
We'll
discuss it. Yeah.
No. If yours is lower than mine, we punt until we get to my number 7. Correct, then we talk about it. AJ's going to give his top 4, his bottom 4, so 10, 9, 8, 7. Then I'm going to do the same. Then AJ will do his next 4. I'll do my next 4. Then he'll give his number 2. I'll give my number 2. Then we reveal our number 1. When we've done all that, deliberated, delicately argued, or not so delicately, I don't know how we're going to do it this week, but we're going to try and do a Mount Rushmore.
It's going to be a tough one.
And with horror, guys. Ava said,
thank you for the challenge.
Yeah, really.
No, honestly, from the bottom of our hearts. It's not even sarcastically. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
this is what the top 10s and the Rushmore is really about.
It's
that
what
real
it's all
challenge
about.
and passion of film.
It was a great topic. I mean, it was hard that you put 70s and 80s in there, and we couldn't exclude 90s. These are classic horror movies that you have to see. And there's, we try to also explain how we've made our top 10. I've factored in movies in the horrors that have scared me the most. I factored in horror movies which had that one moment which is in the annals of Hollywood history. I factored in how iconic the villains are. There's so much to you were saying before off camera that you thought there'd be a lot of B movie in there.
Yeah.
We were shocked at how much good stuff is in there. It's unbelievable.
And again, going back with the 70s, 80s and 90s, just personal opinion, yes, I respect Insidious. Yes, I respect Paranormal Activity, but I find the horror genre has faded. You can't appreciate as much as it was back in this era, and I think that's what makes it even harder.
And the 70s and 80s make up, I'm guessing, the bulk of our lists. Much more even than the 90s. So you have your wish.
100% on that, actually, most definitely. Right, okay. At my number 10.
Well, do you want to start with your 3 honourables first?
Okay,
shoot all 3 off and then just say, well, we know they're not in there because their top 10 are better.
Okay, I'm gonna Misery. Misery was in there for me because that
Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates. It's a very twisted story about a writer who meets his biggest fan, but not in the way that you would wish. Poor guy ends up in an accident, and his biggest fan rescues him, tortures. Watch it. It's there. It's to be on the list.
Sure.
Very. If I remember some films, it was a big one. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That didn't make your top 10.
Trust me, I wish it did. I really wish it did. It's a fantastic. It explains horror. It really does explain horror to such a degree. Blood scenes. It's got every level.
I've got a story about that, which I'll save from because it did make my top 10.
Okay, made your top 10. Right. So there you go. Just based on the other films, the name rings a bell. It was so hard. But
there's going to be something you throw in there that I'm going to be. I can't argue with that. There's too much.
My top 10. I just look at them and
I wonder how much we're going to have in common this week. What's your last honourable?
And my last honourable. It's a 90s baby. It was the last of the decent horror movies as far as I'm concerned. Scream. I love it.
It's in my honourables too.
It had to meet my honourables because it couldn't make the top 10.
John Carpenter.
John Carpenter, and it was such a franchise that it's there. And some of the actors in there you wouldn't really associate with horror. But Drew Barrymore, Sarah Michelle Gellar. Okay, she was Buffy. Courtney Cox, David Arquette. I mean, fantastic comedian. Horror film, but
he met his future ex-wife on this.
Exactly. The two latter names were there, and Scream was epic, and I could not have this list. I really wanted it to be that. I wanted it to be in the Rushmore, but when you look at the rest of the list,
it's too hard.
If you haven't seen it, check the films, and you'll see why it couldn't be there. But
we'll post both of our top 10. No, we won't, because then people are going to read the descriptions and not read and not watch the video. We're not doing that, guys. You want to know what our top 10s are? You'll have to watch.
This is it.
All right. I'm going to give you my honourables too. Just before I do that, tell you what I will do in the description is I'll put a list of great horror movies that didn't make our top 10. So if there's stuff that's beyond our top 10 and you guys are watching it, we're aware. We know these movies are there, and we're going to put them in the description, and all those movies which are in the description we acknowledge should also be watched. Okay, but this is our top 10, and I'm going to give you my honourables. Scream's in there too. I mean, it not only rejuvenated a franchise, a genre that was struggling. It brought back that slasher horror element that John Carpenter actually started with way back in the 80s with my other honourable mention, which is Halloween.
Because we were limited to 3 episodes.
Halloween didn't make our top 10.
And in the name alone, you would think it.
You would think, but it just doesn't. And my third honourable mention is 666 Sons Damien, the Omen, is in my honourables.
Okay, actually made my top 10. Made my top 10.
There you go.
This is how hard it really is. And trust me, the Omen, without tripping you, but I'll leave it, but okay, I think we'll go into the top 10.
I'll save it. But those are our honourables, guys. Those are movies which we wanted to put in the top 10 because they're up there. They could be in the top 10, but they're not because our top 10s are what they are. It's too hard. This is one of the. This could be, you know, I see the future type thing, but I mean, I really don't imagine we're going to have a much harder one than this. Ava, again, thumbs up.
No,
and thank
honestly,
you.
challenge accepted and challenge it was. That's the way I put it. I'm tempted to agree with you, but I'm guessing another fan or the bosses will throw something at us that will be another challenge. Yeah. So it's a difficult one for us. Right, I'm going to go with
Give me your number
10 position. I've gone for Carrie.
Okay,
on your list?
It's not on my list. I had it. Do you know what? I had it on and I took it off.
Right, and it didn't even make the honourables.
It didn't even. And then I put it on honourables, and then I had to put Scream in there.
I had that with Hellraiser. Had that with Hellraiser. I don't know if it's on your list.
Hellraiser's not on my list.
Right, there you go. Hellraiser's another fantastic
in
movie.
The description. Yeah, check it out.
Carrie is, to me, it's so iconic in pop culture that, you know, someone who doesn't go to their prom, you go, they're going to go all Carrie on you. For the record, I don't know if he did. I didn't go to my prom, and I haven't committed.
I went to two.
High five to you.
I went to two. When we were in the same year, I was dating a girl 2 years above me, so I went to her prom. Little insight into my life.
Coming up next, Nick's top 10 romance. But no, on a serious note and keeping it horror, it had to go in there, and it was very difficult with, again, Misery I have a closer passion to, but Carrie, as I said, someone who doesn't go to their prom, unlike Mr. went to 2, it's like, oh, she's going to go all Carrie. The final scene alone is the definition of
pretty horrific, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so difficult to get into this without going into spoiler territory. I'm sure you've heard of it, but we're talking
pandemonium,
hell, fire and brimstone.
Yeah, the whole shebang.
It's there.
What was fascinating about Carrie was, and this I think is a hallmark of any good horror movie, to a degree, it was like not the psychic powers. Okay, spoiler alert, she does have psychic powers in this, right? But there was an element of believability to it, in the sense that she, you know, this girl was bullied. She comes from a very Catholic background, highly religious background. So she wasn't taught about anything like menstruation or the human body and how it develops. So she gets her first period. That's one of the first key scenes in the film. In the shower at school, all the girls bully her, and she's bullied from then on. And this continuous bullying that happens, you know, in the minds of a fragile and volatile young girl, bullied to that degree, you can almost think, yeah, I'd mess you up too if you did that to me. Yeah. I don't know if it would be to that degree, but yeah, I'd mess someone up if they did that to me.
Talking of kids at school with powers, you have Matilda. This definitely wasn't Matilda with powers. This was deep. We're going deep. Carrie was deep, and I think it made a few people think I won't bully if I agree.
No, if in that sense, it did a good job.
Yeah, it done a really good job, and yeah, it's iconic. It's so iconic that it had to reach in there. Right,
number 9.
Number 9, the one that you had on your honourables.
The Omen.
The Omen. Yes, Sam Neill from an early age. You know,
Sam Neill.
Yeah,
the kid.
Yeah,
Sam Neill played
this. Yeah, I'm gonna get that confirmed, but that's what I was told.
Let me confirm that. Carry on. I'll bring this up.
I could be wrong, but as you said, the son of the devil, Damien. Do you know, to this day, I mean, yes, it's biblically there, but you can't look at the name Damien without thinking, shudders, 666. It has the element of horror. It's always twisted when you take a kid and make it horrific.
Freaky kids, right?
Yeah, freaky kids are always there. Talking of that, another one that couldn't make mine, I don't know if it's in yours, The Sixth Sense.
No,
it's not as freaky, but it plays with your mind of a kid.
Did The Ring make yours?
No.
Okay, the Japanese version, or even the non-Japanese, Ringu. Freaky kid.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. When kids have powers and they don't use it for good, it gets scary. And that's why The Omen most definitely made it into my list. We were going to confirm.
I'm going to get this for you right now. This 1976, The Omen, Gregory Peck. Sorry, the internet in here is not great, guys.
Yeah, we'll transition this gradually.
What I remember about The Omen, though, is the hanging scene. I'm doing this for you, Damien.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I always try. I'm going to avoid spoilers in this.
But you have to go into some on some degree. You know, we want to be able to tell you guys about the movie, give you a few little hints and tidbits about, some shock scenes, but not that are necessarily going to ruin the movie for you. The hanging scene doesn't ruin it.
You're right. In that sense,
we have to. I want people, especially Eva, you wanted to see what we have to think about this. But I want everyone who's watching this, to be like, okay, that alone sounds freaky deaky. And if horror is your thing, then hey, go.
That's the one.
Here we go.
Okay, here we go. Right, we're gonna get a confirmation.
I don't see Sam Neill.
We don't see Sam Neill. I can only but apologise from where I don't know where I got that from. If I'm wrong, many a times I've been told that.
Damien. Harvey Steffens.
Okay, sorry.
No. I was gonna say
I'm thrown from something completely off. Take that off. But yeah, we take it off Sam Neill. But everything else, I
can't take it off. It's on video.
It's on video. It's on video that yes, he's made a mistake. But apart from that, the Omen will stick in that.
Guys, we've got encyclopedias, or at least we think we do. Encyclopedias of useless movie knowledge here. Allow us to make mistakes sometimes, right? Omen number 9. Bad. Right. Scary.
Very.
Pretty much in horror, anytime you get down and dirty with the devil, you get nasty.
Yeah, this is it.
Whether you're religious or not, the devil is not
a force
you
hear it, you know it's not going the right way.
Yeah.
This one I've got a feeling's on your list, and I'm not sure where it's landed on your list.
Go on.
My number 8 is The Shining.
Oh, it's way higher on my list. Way higher.
I'll be honest with you, it was, and then I toyed with it, and it had to go back up. It went back up.
I mean, I feel like giving you my top 10 now line, which is, are you insane?
Here is Johnny. I hate myself for it being so low, but the
Don't
others,
talk about it. We'll punt for it. We'll punt for it. It's way higher on my list, guys. We'll talk about Shining when we get to. We'll
Fair
punt.
enough. This one I know is on your list because it's also on your T-shirt. It's been on your T-shirt on the throwback time.
Right.
The one and only Jaws.
Way higher on my list.
Jaws deserves to be it.
If anyone thinks this is not a horror movie, guys, ask your parents, ask your grandparents. Would they even step in a puddle after seeing this movie? This put the fear of the seeing.
Of course,
a lot of negativity.
Into sequel, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, it has it in there. You know?
Sure, but that also sounds like a terribly cheesy,
but it
70s, 80s Hollywood horror slogan.
It hits you to a point that you say that because the reason I say it because the fear was there. We're going to come back to it because it's in yours. There and that's me.
That's you. So okay. My number 10, I'm guessing this is on your list, and I'm guessing this is going to be much higher. Friday the 13th.
Yeah, much higher.
It's higher. We'll punt. Number 9, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Higher.
See the difficulty we're having here. I mean, it's good that we've got a semblance of similar movies. Much higher? Or much, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, damn it. All right, number 8 is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay, that was in my honourables, so. Do
you know what? Okay, I'll go through the movie a bit, then I'll tell you that funny story. Okay? If you haven't seen this movie, it's incredibly gory. And, you would think so, goes hand in hand with the title, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This was actually refused a general release in the cinemas due to the graphic content of it. It doesn't shy away from showing you every nasty detail. It does a brilliant job, because there's some old horror movies which have got iconic status or cult status. Braindead, one of Peter Jackson's early movies, is a good example of what I'm about to say. You can see the vomit factor, the nasty gory factors there, but you can also tell up to a certain point, okay, now it looks fake, especially now. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre still to this day looks too real. Like when they're chopping that girl, here's not a spoiler, but there's a scene where they start macheting a girl's head off, and you can see the camera pans in right to the neck, bit by bit, the neck breaking, and it's like, oh, I've never vomited in a movie, but oh. And the scary thing, I don't know if you know this, is actually not loosely, very closely based on a real life story.
That part I do know, yeah.
You know, sometimes when they say based on a true story, usually, unfortunately, like The Conjuring is a good example. That movie actually scared the pants off of me. But when I read up about it, and it said, because the movie said based on a real story, and I read up on it, and it was like, Yeah, it was in this location, and there's some history, if you go back many years, of there being a witch's convent around there, but there wasn't any story of an exorcism that happened there. So it's like, yeah, but loosely based. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all of the details are up on Google. It's an FBI case. It was well documented, and that movie it sails real close to the skin. And I think that was the reason the cinemas didn't want to release them. But didn't want to release it because I mean it's close to reality.
Especially at the time, it was real tight.
The story I wanted to tell you guys is as follows. This one's from my lovely mum. She was showing my uncle, her younger brother, as I just said, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, in our old house, which had a real bad echo in it, we had one of those old electronic can openers. I think you know where this is going. So in the middle of the night, up past hours when they shouldn't even be watching this. You know, they were not R-rated at the time. My mum, I think, was 11 or 12, if I remember. My uncle was even younger. So my mum just says to him, I'm going to the kitchen. And then she puts on the electric can opener, which does a sound. There's this image I've got in my head from the story of my uncle, and it was a long corridor running, going to the other.
I can fully appreciate that. I shudder. It's on camera. My head has dropped 100 times because.
Yeah. Watch the movie, guys, and then put yourself in that situation. All right.
As a child.
Yeah. Under 15, under 14, even I think it was scary stuff. Yeah. I'm quite surprised this movie's not on your top 10.
It's the iconicity of the others.
Fair enough. I think I know where you're going with that. Fair enough.
That's why. But yeah, Texas Chain, as you said, is based on a true story. It's very. It was just too hard. It's a very hard topic to pick. I juggled. Trust me, it was on the list, and I removed it, but I couldn't remove it from honorables. It would have been too stupid. No one's that.
It's
crazy.
Too big. You know, you think great horror movies, and funnily enough, Texas Chainsaw isn't usually one that comes in at first, but it's always in there.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. This is why it is where we're at. Yes. Next.
Speaking of iconic characters, my number 7, Dracula.
Oh,
is he on your list?
Yeah, he's next for me. So yeah, he's number 6 for me.
Alright, so we'll talk about it now. Forgive Keanu Reeves' terrible British accent. Anthony... Why am I blanking? Anthony Hopkins.
Yes.
Why I blanked there? I don't know. Anthony Hopkins playing Ibrahim Van Helsing. Richard E. Grant. Carrie Elwes. Winona Ryder. And Gary Oldman in the role of a lifetime.
This is it.
I mean, most people who love movies are a Gary Oldman fan, be it in Leon, where he is on fire, be it
fantastic,
be it in The Blink and You'll Miss Him playing that wannabe black pimp in True Romance.
Yes,
which I think is one of his best roles.
Yes.
Hey, yo, is it White Boy Day? No, man, ain't White Boy Day. Hey, yo, Clarence, that's like a black guy's name. You know, he was fantastic in that role, which I still maintain, even though he was only in it for a second, is one of his best roles. Dracula, though, I mean, he was so good in this movie that if he draws you in so much, you forget you are watching a movie. It's scary how good he is. And the movie itself, I mean, it's classified as horror. Obviously, but it's very sexy.
Yeah.
You know, you got the that kind of menage a four with the vampire women. You've got Dracula and his seduction of Nina. It's very sexy. You've got the fact that one of his Nina. No, I won't say this. Something happens to her at the end. Spoiler. That would be spoiler.
Yeah.
But I remember most people who I've shown Dracula to, if they're watching it for the first time, ask a question at the end, is she? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, sexy. It's a very sexy movie. It's got elements of fear in it, but it's not a horror movie that's going to scare you.
This is why it's iconic, and it's something
iconic.
And again, funny enough, when it comes to horrors, people have heard me say it time and time again, I'm not a zombie fan. I respect the vampire element, and I think this is why.
Vampire, werewolf, even zombie.
Yeah.
Mummies even.
Yeah. You know, when you take your Halloween and you take the Dracula
he's the one.
Yeah.
It's like now you go as Darth Vader to Comic-Con.
Yeah.
You go to Trick or Treat as Dracula.
And this is why it had to be mentioned. And again, going back, I think what you said last week about Connery made Bond, Brosnan perfected it.
Yeah.
It's the same with this.
Christopher Lee made Dracula.
He made Dracula.
Omen
perfected it.
It's unreal.
It was fantastic.
And the effects, for the time, I mean, a lot of practical effects. You know, him turning into that kind of wolf creature, turning into the mist and the bats. It was like, whoa!
The graphics are fantastic. The elements, as you said, Keanu had this is English, right? Accent. There are parts of it, but it had the setting was right. It was dark. As you said, it has that sexiness to it as well.
It's so sexy. But it's unnerving. You always feel like it makes you feel like you're being watched.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. But I mean, the thing about Dracula, it was originally a Bram Stoker novel, right? Very old and gothic. Most people lie about having read the book. The book is actually incredibly boring.
Okay.
It's actually mostly extracts from letters or from journals or from diaries. Now, what was interesting is when you know that and you actually see how they incorporate that in the movie. Like, do you remember when he's in the train and he goes, "Welcome to my beautiful land. I trust your journey was a pleasant one." You know, and it's actually in the letter of the train, just above the letter. That's all from the book. So they managed to make a very boring book
very exciting.
Very exciting. And that opening battle scene, which is all shadow done, but I mean that's unpleasant.
Irrelevant.
I renounce God. You know, it's unsettling. I would say
it definitely is. It's and I think as well, it's not what taking the elements of the Hammer elements. It's not what you expected from Dracula, but it works. It works so well. It's what you know of it, and or what you understood of it after. You couldn't say, "Oh no, that's not it." You appreciate it. You appreciate it. So,
if for nothing else than Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
My God, he was good. It is no laughing matter. I mean,
powerful cast, headed by a very powerful Dracula. So, your number 7,
peak of his 6. Powers. Yeah, my number 7. So, your number 6 is the same. So, you're number 5 now.
Okay, number 5. the not so lovable doll known as Chucky. Child's Play.
It's not in mine.
It's not in yours.
Which pained me. Child's Play isn't in my top 10. I couldn't do it.
It's disturbing. As much as I went back before, as much as I've gone into the elements of a scary kid, what about the toy that a kid plays with? It gets even scarier. You have this doll, and
still feel it in the 21st century. Yeah. If you watch The Conjuring, Annabelle, where do you think that idea came from?
Exactly.
It's female Chucky.
It's so weird. Yes. There are spins on it, but it's disturbing. It's powerful, and he is gory. He is blood loving and the
nasty little dog.
Yeah. I was gonna swear, but I'm not. You can't stop it. He comes back. It's
the feet.
Yeah, you just hear it, you see it, and it is that. It's that little movement of this doll, and you're like, no. I can't explain.
You can't even put it into words.
You can't put it into words. You have to see it. You have to feel it.
It's one of those movies whereby I'll go back to Hitchcock as an example. I remember the first time I watched The Birds, and I asked my dad, "What's scary about birds?"
Mm-hmm. I'll show you.
Yeah, what's scary about a doll?
And Chucky's one of those. Yes, there's been Child Play and onwards,
and it got stupid. Chucky. Like all great horror movies, Halloween got stupid, Scream got stupid, Friday the 13th got stupid, Nightmare on Elm Street. They all got stupid.
Yeah.
But the originals.
Yeah. You stick to the originals, and it comes back to stuff I've said before. You've got to have the idea of a sequel, not just make a sequel because you can cash in on it. Yes, it's a business, I agree with that, but keep it to what the fans want. And trust me, if you're looking for horror...
Fans, they don't matter.
Who? What? Yeah. It's horror to me. And as you said, it couldn't even make it honorables, and I can understand that because it's a very difficult list.
The list is vicious.
But to me, it's too iconic to have not made the list.
There's too many other iconic things in my 6 to 1.
Okay. I'm sure this is on your list. Where I'm not sure.
Go on.
The Exorcist.
Oh yeah, it's way higher.
Okay.
It's way higher.
Okay, we're near the end, so I can understand. But
You are, I'm not.
Okay.
That was your number what? 4, 5?
Yeah, number 4.
Alright, so you got one more.
One more. Silence of the Lambs.
I ate his liver, Clarice, with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
It's again going back to what you said with Texas Chainsaw.
Not a horror.
I was tempted. There was the argument of that, and to be honest, I think I swapped Texas Chainsaw and Silence of the Lambs because of the iconicness behind it. And when it came into it, it is more psychological. I will give you that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is a whole lot more psychological, but it's disturbing.
Do you know what it is, guys? There's so many. I mean, I remember when there was once upon a time there was this thing called Blockbuster Video.
Yeah.
Long time ago. Now on the spine of the Blockbuster Video, you'd have the title of the movie, the rating, and then it would have 2 genres: romantic comedy, sci-fi horror, action adventure. There are so many different subgenres of movies now: psychological thriller, psychological horror,
thriller,
romantic
horror,
action comedy. I mean, there's so many. Look, the way we've made this list, disclaimer, because we both agree Silence of the Lambs is a psychological thriller. You mentioned The Shining earlier, which is higher up on my list. We pretty much both agree psychological thriller. However, American Psycho, psychological thriller.
Yeah, definitely.
American Psycho does not scare us.
No.
Silence of the Lambs
us,
scares you.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Shining scares you.
Yeah.
And that is one of the added elements of horror. We can argue, or agree even, until the cows come home about, this movie isn't really a horror, or it's just a gore fest. At the end of the day, I'll say again, the way we're making the list is it comes down to how iconic this movie is. Some of them, it's about whether they've stood the test of time, Texas Chainsaw being an example.
Definitely.
How much they've scared me, and the ones which have really scared me are on the higher end of my list. How, as I said, how iconic the figures and movies have become, or how cult they've become.
Yeah.
This is one.
Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins in the role of a lifetime again. We're talking about roles of a lifetime. Goldman's Dracula, Hopkins is Hannibal the Cannibal.
It sticks to him, doesn't it? You know, he's not Thor's dad. He's Hannibal Lecter.
He is. Yeah. Now, for those of you who haven't seen it, there's no scenes of cannibalism really in this movie. You've got one. You've got one kind of. It's not a gore fest. It really much gets you here as opposed to here. Okay? Yeah. It's the mind games that go on. It's some of the lines it's again like Dracula, that overwhelming feel of unease that you have. Yeah. I mean, she's sitting a few feet away from a guy who could mess with her on physical, mental, emotional levels. That's horrible.
It's bad. It's unnerving. It really is unnerving, and it's an iconic.
My favourite line is the last line of the movie. I'd love to stay and chat, Clarice, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Ta-ta.
Yeah.
And it's such a great line.
Yeah. It's there. It's such an iconic character. Even
I'm still screaming, Clarice. I mean,
you look at Hannibal and remind me of the other sequel.
There's a few.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got Red Dragon, which was the prequel.
Yeah.
And you've got Hannibal. It's called Hannibal.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Red Dragon. Yeah, that was the other.
Hannibal's the sequel.
Yeah, Hannibal's the sequel.
Yeah, Hannibal got silly.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
it wasn't scary the way the silence was.
Exactly. You couldn't shy away from you couldn't leave Silence of the Lambs alone. That's what I'm getting at. It's
Red Dragon didn't do a bad job actually of making it psychological again.
It was
Ray Fiennes, Ed Norton. That's okay. See, Red Dragon I'd say is much more thriller than horror. Yeah. Silence of the Lambs has that horror element.
Yeah, it has horror to it, and it's an iconic character, as you said, performance of a lifetime from iconic actors such as Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, who will forever be remembered as that.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
And he's done so many great roles, but he shall and always will be remembered for Hannibal the Cannibal Lecter.
This is it. So, yeah, I had to do it.
Yeah.
I had to do it.
Fair enough. I can't. It's not on my list, but I can't disagree with it.
Okay.
You see, we're in trouble here for Mount Rushmore. We're in real trouble.
It's going to be a big one. Am I leaving it to you now?
No, that was your number what?
That's my number 3.
Okay, over to me. My number 6. Now, you want to talk about iconic?
It's there.
Alien.
I'll tell you what.
Go on.
I'm just going to get into it. Why it wasn't on my list before people think this guy's an idiot. It rings more sci-fi to me. It has it. It's horror.
Sci-fi horror.
It's a sci-fi horror, but it rang more sci-fi to me. I'm going to let you take the lead, but that's why it's not on my list. I just had to get that.
Fair enough. Now, a lot of people, first off, mix up Alien and Aliens. Let's be very clear. Alien, Ridley Scott, only one alien in it. Aliens, James Cameron. I loved it. I even prefer it to Alien on some levels. It's nowhere near as iconic. I mean, the chest bursting scene, that is reason alone for me to put it on this list. It is stuff of Hollywood legend, the chest bursting scene. Funny story about it, actually. Did you know that when they were filming it, some of the cast didn't know what was about to happen?
Oh, wow.
It was like a cow blood or ox blood that they used or something like that to make it as real as possible. And there's, just as he goes, pops out the chest, one girl, I can't remember her name, goes, like that. Real reaction. That was a real reaction. And again, it's things like that which we'll get on in some of our other movies which make horror movies so special, because there's certain things, it doesn't matter if you're the best method actor in the world, you can't teach that.
Yeah.
Right? Those natural reactions that Scott got by not telling the cast what they were about to see was so clever. So that alone, but there's people sometimes say, oh, it's more of a monster movie or more of a sci-fi.
It's a sci-fi one, yeah.
I say Aliens. So the second part is very much an action or monster movie. The thing about the way they portray the alien in this movie, it was very much like a Freddy Krueger or a Jason or a Mike Myers. You know, it was very much like a serial killer stalking you. You didn't see the alien much. I mean, you saw the chest burst and then it got big. But I mean, it just hunted you from the shadows. There was that constant feeling of fear, of isolation.
Yeah, I'll give you that. No,
and the way it was filmed makes it a horror movie for me. It's a sci-fi horror.
Yeah, no,
definitely. It's in space.
The horror's out there as well.
It's cyborgs. It's got a great cast in Sigourney Weaver, Ian Holm, who plays I won't say, it'll spoil the movie, but it's in my top 10 for that chest burster scene alone.
Yeah.
No conversation in horror I think can be had without talking chest burster.
True. Oh yeah.
So that was my number 6. Number 5, I was just talking about isolation, and this I don't think is going to be on your list. It might surprise me. You may not have seen this one. The Thing.
Okay, I've seen it, but
you have.
Yeah.
You didn't like it.
It's stuck in, but with my list is my list. Yeah,
I understand that. Look, The Thing was one of those horror movies. It wasn't sexy. It's far from it.
No.
It wasn't sexy like Dracula was. It was very gory. It was made by one of the horror masters in John Carpenter, and it was between that period when he did Halloween and between when he did Scream.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I mean, the monster was cool. It's basically an alien which can take the form of anyone and anything around you, and it strikes without knowing. So it was this dementia. Not dementia. Sorry, it was this complete mind F of not knowing who you could trust and who you weren't. Add to that, what I would argue is even more, or just as isolated as Deep Space, the deep freeze of the Antarctic.
Yeah.
I cannot think of a cooler location to set. I mean, cool, pun intended. To set a horror movie. I mean, the idea that you have got no help around you for miles and miles, and unlike in space where you got tasers and phasers and lasers and everything, ain't nothing to help you.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing to help you, and at least, you know, up in space with the aliens, you know what you're fighting. Here, you don't know what you're fighting.
Especially when you don't know what he looks like.
It's unreal. I mean, even at the end when the ultimate creature revelation happens, it's just a deformed mess of everything it's taken apart of. There's one particular scene where they think they're trying to bring someone back from life and they go clear, tried to use the defibrillator on him, and the stomach opens and
yeah.
It's like, what? Oh wow, yeah, you really don't know who's who.
Yeah. This is it. Yeah.
It didn't particularly scare me. It's the idea of it that I think originality in horror is, it's very hard to take any subject matter which is to do with aliens, to do with gore, and make it original. And to make it stand the test of time. Thing, still to this day, looks good.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
My next one. Did you have anything to add about The Thing?
You captured it. It was that element of it's everything, the area, the location. It is a good movie. Don't get me wrong. It's not in my honorables. It's not in my top 10. It doesn't.
But there's so many which aren't, which are great.
I've struggled. I've taken. I've removed. I've added. I've shifted. There's been a lot on this, and
off-camera work took a while.
Yeah, it did. It really and truly did. No, The Thing, as you said, even that scene. Yeah, you don't know. It's just the element and. Yeah, it's a powerful movie. Just it couldn't make my list.
Yeah. Number 4, one of the scariest movies ever made, generally agreed by the public, is An American Werewolf in London. Now you want to talk scary? Actually, do you know what? Before I even talk scary, I've been talking about iconicity within movies, that you can't have a horror debate without talking the chestburster from Aliens. You cannot have a horror talk without talking one of the greatest metamorphosis scenes in cinema history. Before I carry on, do you know what? We're going to throw it up for you right now. Have a look at this.
Suddenly there appeared before me the only one when I heard somebody whisper, please adore me. And when I looked, the moon had turned to gold. Help me! Please! Help me! Help me! Without a dream in my mind, I didn't mean to call you Meatloaf, Jack. Standing alone, without a dream in mind, without a love, without a love of mine.
And we're back. So that was made early 80s. The mouth changing, and do you know actually how they did it? The transformation into the werewolf. You've seen it now, guys. So the way that they actually did it is that they had the top half of his body was exposed, and the bottom half they had in a little drop.
Okay.
And everything else was done as a time lapse. So it gradually changed into a monster.
Smart.
It was very clever. That scene, just the first time you see it, I mean, I say again, it stands the test of time, but there's better effects out there, right? Just like most old classics. Evolution of film, as you say. But I mean, even now it looks great, but you put yourself in the 80s, or like when I watched it, which was much too young. In the early to mid 90s. Yeah. And I've still to this day, because of this freaking movie, got an ingrained fear of werewolves. Nothing can be further from reality, but nothing scares me more. I mean, on a movie level, you know, my phobias, different topic.
But that's when you know it's done the job. That's when you know it's hit the mark.
It's gory, it's unsettling. I like you with Child's Play, I can't talk about it. It scared the bejesus out of me, this movie.
Yeah.
And again, cool setting. It's not in New York. It's not in some, far off outer space. It's in London. Right here where the silver screen dudes are.
Our hometown. Yeah.
It's, there's scenes in that movie, London's changed a lot since then, but I'm like, there's certain roads I don't like to walk down now. I'm like, nope. Moving on. I'll take the next right.
It's a good movie. I wouldn't take it away.
And it's a word I keep on using. It's iconic.
Most definitely. Which is why my top two are my top two. But yeah,
I think I know what they are, by the way.
Yeah. I'm sure you do. I'm very sure you do.
All right, my number three. Yes. You've done your three, haven't you?
Yeah. 1 and 2. That's my
3 we're both going to talk about because you mentioned it earlier. It's on your list. Is Jaws.
It was scary. Do you know? I think
it's scary the first time.
Yeah. Do you know why Jaws? Jaws is really funny because, as you said, scary the first time. The biggest shock. I don't know if you were here to see this. The biggest shock of my life was waking up. As you do, you have your Christmas movies. In the UK, our Christmas movies are Wizard of Oz,
Great Escape.
All of these are your Christmas to New Year films. You know they're going to be there.
Gremlins.
Oh, definitely Gremlins.
That's a horror. I'm surprised that's not on here.
Oh, wow.
The first one is.
Yeah, but it has its comedic value, isn't it? But we have these films. I remember waking up late-ish and flicking through and enjoying my gifts as I do. And this is recently past.
You made a mistake, didn't you?
What's that?
You put on Jaws.
No. This is the shock of how it's changed and why it was as far as it was. Jaws was on daytime TV. Yeah, Jaws was on in the daytime. That's the evolution of film. I was there with my parents and I'm like, what? My childhood came to me like,
that is a post-Watershed production right there. That is 10 o'clock and after.
Jaws is on now, and we had to kind of laugh at it, but it's the evolution and how stuff have changed and the shock value to kids nowadays. Yeah. But take it for the time that it was. I'm going to go with the big thing of back in the day, Back to the Future. Even in Back to the Future, where they mentioned you travel to 2015, it had like Jaws 9. You knew there was the element of Jaws. Jaws was that iconic.
Yeah.
As you said earlier, it was too scary to go in the water.
Guys, if you weren't around when Jaws was born, and if you were, you're going to agree with what I'm about to say. People wouldn't go in the deep end of a swimming pool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I'm a scuba diver now, master instructor right here. When I was sort of 8 or 9, I would not get in the deep end of a pool. Hell no.
Also, I think no film has done this as much as this one. Just by hearing da-dun, da-dun, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, you just know it's trouble.
E flat and G minor.
Yeah, it's there. The minute that music came in, and don't get me wrong, it's when I look at the others and where they're rated. I don't want to put Jaws there. Also, I have of how horror it is. It's a scary movie, yes. I don't know if I'd put it in the category of horror.
There's a few reasons why I've put Jaws so high. No movie. Not even maybe my number one. We'll get to that in a minute. In fact, I think my number one did do this. But other than that, no movie has generally put the fear of fears into people. I am not exaggerating. You wouldn't go in the, yeah, I know people still to this day who will not go above waist level if they're in the sea.
It's true.
Who won't go diving. I mean, how many of you out there, and unfortunately I don't have time to rubbish this, if you want to talk sharks with me, please email silverscreendudes@gmail.com or message us on Facebook, and I will give you a full rundown of why sharks are not dangerous. That is a completely different topic. Honest question, how many of you out there have a subconscious or very even conscious fear of sharks? How many of you think that sharks will eat you?
And how many of you believe that because of Jaws?
No. If you believe that, it's because of Jaws. Because it's not true.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk sharks now. Sharks
yeah.
actually don't eat you. You know, I can tell you dolphins kill more people each year than sharks. Wow, oh my God, yes, Flipper versus Jaws. Different topic, all right?
Completely.
I don't have time to do that now. If I'm happy to make the time if you want to hit me up, all right? No word of a lie, dolphins kill more people than sharks. Yeah, I know, look at his face. Back on to the point. No movie has put such, and it wasn't local, it was worldwide.
Oh, yeah.
And do you know what I think made it whole for me? Is there's a particular scene in Jaws, which I'll play it up for you in a minute. There's a particular scene in Jaws where Robert Shaw they're in the boat, and he's talking about the USS Indianapolis. He lived through that. That's all real.
Okay.
When they're like, yeah, what's this tattoo? I had that one removed, Mr. Hooper. Now let me guess, mother. Mr. Hooper, that's the USS Indianapolis. And the silence. You're on the Indianapolis? And then Brody chips in and, what happened? Coming back from the island of Tilian-Delale. You know what? I'm going to let him do it. Check out this clip.
Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes into our side, Chief. He was coming back from the island of Tinian-Delady, just delivered the bomb, the Hiroshima bomb. 1,100 men went into the water. The vessel went down in 12 minutes. Didn't see the first shark for about half an hour. Tiger, 13-footer. You know that when you're in the water, Chief? You tell by looking from the dorsal to the tail. What we didn't know was our bomb mission had been so secret, no distress signal had been sent. They didn't even list us overdue for a week. Very first light, Chief. Sharks come cruising. So we formed ourselves into tight groups. You know, it's kind of like old squares in a battle, like you see in a calendar, like the Battle of Waterloo, and the idea was, shark comes to the nearest man, that man he start pounding and hollering and screaming. Sometimes the shark would go away. Sometimes he wouldn't go away. Sometimes that shark, he looks right into you, right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, he doesn't seem to be living until he bites you. And those black eyes roll over white, and then you hear that terrible high-pitched screaming. The ocean turns red, and in spite of all the pounding and the hollering, they all come in and they rip you to pieces. You know, by the end of that first dawn, lost 100 men. I don't know how many sharks, maybe 1,000. I don't know how many men, they average 6 an hour. On Thursday morning, Chief, I bumped into a friend of mine, Herbie Robinson from Cleveland. Baseball player, bosun's mate. I thought he was asleep. Reached over to wake him up. Bobbed up and down in the water. It was like a kind of top. Upended. Well, he'd been bitten in half below the waist. Noon the 5th day, Mr. Hooper, Lockheed Ventura, So he swung in low and he saw us. A young pilot, a lot younger than Mr. Hooper anyway. He saw us and he come in low, and 3 hours later a big fat PBY comes down and started to pick us up. You know, that was the time I was most frightened, waiting for my turn. I'll never put on a life jacket again. So 1,100 men went in the war. 316 men come out. The Sharks took the rest June the 29th, 1945. Anyway, we delivered the bomb.
He lived through that. Now, knowing that, before you've seen this movie, he was on the Indianapolis. The actor who played this role was on the Indianapolis. He saw his friends die around him, attacked by sharks. Not eaten, bitten. It is a very clear difference. Yes, sharks can kill you. That is beyond question. They do not eat you. They bite you, you don't taste good. But back on the horror, again, I'm going to stay off that shark thing if I can. It's a point of anger for me. He lived through that. He saw his friends upended. He was one of the very few who made it off that boat. And you add that, Spielberg, who had a zillion and one problems with this movie, even named the shark Bruce after his lawyer. Which I love. But, Spielberg must have said, keep rolling, just roll. You know
that one with silence. Yeah.
Still filming. Jaws is just one of those movies where so many things went wrong, and because it went wrong, it all actually fell into place. When you watch it, the shark vision, which usually is accompanied by dun 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 dun, that was an accident.
Okay.
They couldn't get the mechanical shark to work. Bruce the shark kept on breaking down, and so they were like, all right, well, let's try something else. They just use the camera and move the camera around. I mean, knowing this now, it's probably going to ruin the fact of how the shark is. But I mean, this movie, this is the greatness of it. I know all the tricks that they use to make this movie because it's one of it's in my top 10 movies of all time. I love Jaws.
Yeah, I understand it.
And despite the fact that I know the tricks, every time I watch it, it draws me in. Alfred Hitchcock once said that to make a movie, don't say it, show it. Every single frame has to count towards the film. There's so few films that I can think of off the top of my head where I would say, by Hitchcock's definition, which I happen to agree with, that's perfect movie making. Jaws, and most people who have never seen it will say, I disagree. People who have seen it will probably say, I agree. Not a single frame is wasted in that movie. Every single second is conductive towards the story.
Perfectly put together.
You could put this in the top 10 Spielberg movies and it would be in my top 3. You could put this in the top 10 movies of all time, top 10 movies of the 70s. I mean,
it will always make a list. It will always make a list.
In any film talk, Jaws is in there. It's in horror simply because of the fact that it scared so many goddamn people.
Yeah.
You're gonna need a bigger boat. Another great Hollywood line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Most definitely.
I've gone on for too long about Jaws. AJ, you're number 2.
One of the most iconic characters in the history of horror. Jason. Yes. That's the one. Yes. Jason the Mask itself. Friday the 13th.
That was my number 10.
Yeah. To me, it had to be so lower down because...
So higher up, you mean?
Yeah, sorry, coming down. Yeah, down in the list on the way to number 1. Because it is too much. It's too iconic. The mask alone, the Jason's frame,
He's unstoppable.
Cutlass. Yeah, he's
machete.
unstoppable. Yeah, the machete. Sorry, Cutlass came into my head. That's more of a background, Caribbean background to me. Machete completely left my head.
He likes Assassin's Creed.
Completely off topic. I'm going to really stick to this. He is unstoppable no matter what you do, and it's just that pace, the presence. He's a big guy.
He's a powerhouse. Yeah.
It's just there, and he's just unnerving. Nothing phases him. And I think the mask as well. It's not just any mask.
The mask is iconic.
It's so plain that there's no motion to it, and it's just this unmovable, emotionless monster that just gets at you. You cannot, no matter what you do.
But it goes back to that thing that clip I showed you a minute ago from Jaws. You know the thing about sharks, those black eyes, doll's eyes, lifeless eyes. Same thing with Jason. It's that plain emotionless fact that he's gonna kill you.
Yeah.
You better run.
Yeah, and
even then he's gonna get you.
Thank you. And it spins off into so many. And yeah, if there was one that got me, and you think of a monster and slash and blood and gore, it's Jason. He really sticks out, and he could have been my number one. And I toyed with the two, and I'm sure you know who number one is. But
I got an idea.
Yeah, and that. But Jason.
2.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
If you didn't get that reference, fantastic. You'll find out what AJ's number one is in a minute. Friday the 13th for me, like Child's Play, got ruined, which is why it was so low on my list. The reason it made my list is because there is no denying how iconic he is. That's beyond doubt, and you've covered everything on that. But Jason X. Let's put Jason in space.
It gets stupid. I know.
And that's why it doesn't make it. It doesn't stand the test of time.
I stuck to it.
Same as Halloween.
Yeah, I stuck to it. Halloween was very difficult for me to not put in. But
me too. Got honourable mention.
Again, I should have put it there. But it was just too difficult. But Jason, I had to stick to the original. Just like you said with Jaws. For the time and the original, just the first time watching it, as I said, Jaws, as iconic as it is, was daytime TV here in the UK recently, but the original first Friday the 13th was massive. But over to you.
My number 2, Stanley Kubrick's Here's Johnny. The Shining.
The Shining was high for me. And I'm just going to defend it, and I'm going to let you sell it. The Shining was high to me because it's the mental element. Don't get me wrong; it's scary. It
play with us forever and ever.
It's that element of that crossing. What category do you really put The Shining in?
I put it close to Carrie. It's one of those things where it's so plausible.
Yeah,
it's got that element of isolation. A lot like The Thing, it's in a very cold, remote place. It's got that element of loneliness. And the performance. You got to talk about the performance. Jack Nicholson, the way it's so believable, the way he demonstrates a descent into madness.
I'm going to use the line that you quoted and performance of a lifetime. Let's get it. You can't look at Jack Nicholson without just thinking he's a little unhinged. And I'm not,
same man who played the Joker.
The Joker. Okay, it's not everyone's favourite cup of tea, but he's crazy in even anger management. You just see it, but it all goes back.
He's a bit cuckoo.
Yeah, it all goes back to Johnny. Johnny.
And Johnny's kid. Red Ram.
Yes.
Red Ram.
Nothing is more iconic. And don't get me
you don't know what I'm talking about? Say Red Ram backwards.
That face through the door, that line, it's powerful. It's a powerful movie. As I said, it's closer to number one for you than it is for me. That's why it's there for me, but it's that hinge of where it is.
Do you know why my number one, which I'll talk about in a minute, and my number 2 is so high? Because of all the movies that have been on this list, no 2 movies have scared me more than these 2. To the degree where I can't sleep at night. To the degree where when I eventually fall asleep, despite my better willingness to, I wake up in the morning, and if it's a winter's dead morning and it's dark, I don't want to get out of bed. And do you know what it was about The Shining? Apart from the performance, apart from the subject matter, even though Stephen King, who wrote the book, said he didn't like the movie, screw him as far as I'm concerned. All right?
Not often that happens, but
that happens, but as far as I'm concerned, Stanley Kubrick made a masterpiece in this movie.
Sure.
But it was the camera angles, the tricycle and the camera following at exactly these squared parallel 90-degree angles. You want to know where all the modern horror movies get their ideas from about, when you're opening a door and you can't quite see. In the past, something would jump. Nowadays, you're expecting something to jump and it doesn't, and it makes you more nervous, right?
Yeah, because it's like when.
All of these camera angles, all from The Shining. It all started with The Shining and the way Stanley Kubrick made that movie. He didn't do that same type of camera work in all of his movies. He gave each of his movies a very distinct feel. But the camera work in The Shining, combined with that performance of Jack Nicholson, was so goddamn unsettling.
It's there.
I couldn't sleep for days.
To me, it has... Obviously, it falls in the horror category, but it's the psychological part, and it's not the element of horror to me in that definition. Don't get me wrong, and that's why it's high, but it couldn't not get mentioned. It could not get mentioned. I would walk off set.
I mean,
right
I'm
now
going to
and
fight
never
for
come
it to
back.
be on Rushmore. Stay tuned to find out.
It's
There's an argument to be made for it.
Trust me, I picture it. But I'm not even.
You think horror? It's one of the ones you instantly think of.
It's there.
That might be a lock-in.
It's there.
Go with your number one.
Right. Freddy.
1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Nightmare on Elm Street, and I'm going to stick with number one, and I can understand too. I'm guessing very similar to Friday the 13th.
Oh, it's all about number one.
Once you start going further off, it starts getting very stupid. And funny enough, 1 and 2.
2 was alright.
No. I'm talking my number 1 and 2.
All
Freddy
right.
and Jason have faced off, and it's not appreciated by everyone. It's not the best of movies, but the reason they done it is because of how iconic and demonic these guys are.
There are very few characters more iconic than Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, exactly, and that is it. And
He's
more
up
than-
there in the Hollywood legendary status. He's up there with Vader.
Yeah,
He's up there with the Joker.
Yeah.
He's stuff of legend.
Whether it's the jumper, the claws, the face, or the hat, it all leans towards Freddy Krueger. You could see any of them, and you know where you're going with that. That's how powerful Freddy Krueger is. How can I say this?
Can I challenge you on this? Why he's your number one? The reason I disagree with it, frankly, is because this movie, to me, which is why it was so low on my list, but it makes the list, again, same word, iconicity. It makes the list because of how iconic and important Freddy was as a character to history, right? To horror, right? Now, the reason I disagree with it being your number one is because I think you've gone for iconicity alone.
No.
If you watch it now, some of it
now-
does not stand the test. Some of it does. Some of it doesn't stand the test of time. It feels, not even the horror scenes, but the whole movie, the way it's made, you can feel that you are watching an 80s movie. And above everything, for me, we're talking horror. This movie doesn't scare me. The idea is scary.
Yeah.
The idea, by the way, is that when you fall asleep, that's when he's gonna get you.
Yeah, I'll go with
9-10,
you.
never sleep again.
I'll go with you on those elements, but it's as much as it's the iconicity, it's that memory. I think where Jaws sticks to you, Nightmare on
But I
Elm
wouldn't
Street.
put Jaws on
No.
necessarily a Rushmore of horror.
No. But Nightmare on Elm Street, as well as the iconic factors, is one of my earliest, if not first, horror. As much as the others have come in later
Okay,
in
fair
time.
enough, fair
and
enough.
on that, it's that memory of, if you're going to mention horror to me, that's where it rings to me. Not, yes, the iconic status is there, but on a personal level, it's there.
hey, cool.
And that's why it's locked in, and that's where I was going with.
I think I saw it when I was too old. It didn't scare me.
If I remember rightly, and I could be very wrong on it, I think it was so big at one point, it was even like a TV series to Elm Street. There was something. It was.
You might be right on that.
Yeah, that's how big it really was and went.
Yeah.
So you've got TV series.
Which we think.
Yeah, I really,
Pretty sure.
If I don't, I've dreamt of a TV series, which was bad because you're not meant to fall asleep when it comes to Freddy. But going into like real territory, a potential TV series that was there, the 1,000,001 spin-offs, one of the most iconic figures in there, and as I said, my earliest, if not first horror movie is why Nightmare on Elm Street 1. Don't go for the franchise, please. 1. Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street.
So you're definitely going for the iconicity and the personal touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's there. I can agree. If I watch it now, it's 80s and everything was a whole lot bigger.
Yeah.
But it rings to me as horror. You can't tell me horror without that coming into my head, and I can't put it further back based on that.
Yeah.
It will ring to me in that notion.
All right. I think you had my number one on your list.
I did. I'm sure I do.
Argued by most as the scariest movie of all time. Something I completely agree with, hence my number one position. The movie that made me, I swear I didn't want, this is the one where I had nearly bunked school for a week. It was a winter morning, I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. I was like, no, screw it. No, it's not happening. I am talking, of course, about The Exorcist.
Yeah, it was in my number 4. It couldn't be low. Again, I think due to iconicity, Not that it's not, but we're talking figures. Everyone knows of The Exorcist.
No. We are not. We are
talking.
talking. Reagan.
You mentioned it. It slipped my mind.
We are not talking horror characters. We are talking horror movies.
I'll give you that.
All right. Now, the reason this is at number one, you were going personal a minute ago. I'm going to keep it personal for me too. No movie, and there's been one or two which have come close. No movie has scared me more than this. I couldn't go to sleep. When I did go to sleep, didn't want to wake up in the morning. I didn't want to get out of my bed. I didn't want to get out of my house. I didn't want to walk down my stairs. And if you watch the unedited one with the spider walk, I mean, I'm going to say it.
No, beep, beep. I'm beeping you. I am beeping you.
F off.
You know what? Going back.
F off.
When it goes back to The Exorcist and the beeping, the most iconic. It's so bad. It's terrible. That it's the line that sticks into my head more. I can't say it.
Your mother.
It's to do with your mother.
There's too many swear words in this movie for us to quote it.
But
when she turns her head and breaks her neck and goes, "Do you know what she did? Your beep daughter." It's like, okay. Disclaimer right now, because I know that a lot of people out there going, yeah, well, it's a demon devil movie, the power of Christ compels you and all that, he's a religious boy. Hey, no cross right here, nothing. I am not religious. I am agnostic as it gets, all right? I have my own set of beliefs. He can tell you, I'm telling you now, I am not religious. I do not worship at any altar except that of George Lucas, all right?
Yet, somehow, even in horror, that has been brought up. What we're gonna do now?
This movie just messed me up, and still, I can't even watch extracts of this movie. You've got all over YouTube other top 10 guys like us, and they do little. They've got licensed clips and stuff. That spider walk, that neck break, that. So horrible. This movie.
So much.
All right,
if
guys,
you ever want to know about possession, someone getting possessed. Nothing came before, as far as I'm concerned. And
I don't think anything's going to come close.
Nothing
ever.
will come after.
Banned from cinemas for 10 plus years. This movie would not be released. Even now, it's hard to find.
It's known to cause psychological problems to people.
No, the girl who played Reagan in the movie, she had real trauma afterwards. Gone. Nowhere to be seen. Amazing little actress. Had to have years of rehab. Messed her up.
Yeah.
This is. And you feel that. I'm getting the shivers. Is it getting cold in here?
The heating's up as well. The heating is up in Silver Screen HQ. But
it is horrible.
It's a big film, and now
we got to fight.
Oh, we do, because, and I think
I don't know how.
The biggest fight, and I
don't know how to do this.
We're gonna sit down. I'm tempted.
And we got to do this fast.
I'm tempted to even pause. I'm tempted to even pause and come back once we've resulted it, because the argument. But you guys.
You want to see the argument.
You want to see the argument. My top two aren't even on your list. Oh no, I take it back. They are. But my top two were your lowest two.
Yeah.
In the weirdest.
I can give you one of them and not the other. And I think we're both going to agree on which one.
We're going to go for Freddy over Jason.
Yeah.
Freddy is horror. Jason's powerful.
It's one of those things you were saying. We've been saying again and again, guys, there's so many factors that make it top 10 horror movies. And God knows, Ava, you've really given us a hard one here, right? As I've said it before, I'm saying it again now. How to put, if you were to talk to someone, a movie newbie, who has never seen a horror movie, about the 4 horror movies that he has to see to understand the genre, I'll go with you. I think Freddy should be in there.
Freddy's in there, but Freddy's not number 1. Reagan's number 1.
Yeah.
The Exorcist is.
There's no movie like it.
The fact that you've even messed up the actress.
It's horrible.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with.
Well,
number 1.
I thought we were going to agree with The Exorcist. Yeah,
Exorcist is number 1. It has number 1, and then at number 2 is Freddy Krueger. I'm
going to put Freddy in there because of what he represents to horror. He is the be-all to end-all of the slasher genre. Yeah, some will talk about Scream. Freddy's the man.
The Scream mask.
It didn't scare me, but you know what? He's an important part of horror movie history. He has to be. And again, put yourself in the mindset of you've never seen a horror movie. We're making a Mount Rushmore now. You have to pick the 4 movies that would explain this genre to someone. You've got the mentally traumatizing religious connotated, disgusting, unnerving Exorcist. You've got an icon of horror in Freddy Krueger, and then we've got another 2 spots, and I don't know how we're going to fill them. I mean,
I have problem.
I've got 2 which I can think of for reasons.
One that's so high in your list because you mentioned it in all genres.
What, Jaws?
Jaws. I can't do Jaws.
I wouldn't put
because
Jaws there.
As much as it's a horror, it levels also into monster. Obviously, sharks are real.
Jaws is very much a monster movie.
It's a monster
I agree.
movie.
Shark or no shark.
Yeah, it peaks more into monster movie.
But it's even got elements. I mean, this is me reaching. All right, it's got elements of buddy cop in it. You know, the holy trinity relationship between Hooper, Brody, and Robert Shaw. There's so many elements to Jaws. You know, if we were to do a top 10 greatest movies of all time, I would fight for Jaws to be in that. I really would. Up there with Citizen Kane, up there with many others. If you want us to do a top 10 greatest movies of all time, comment.
I was just about to put my veto on that straight away. The way times are changing, and I think if you found this hard, that is the ultimate challenge of trying. Because top 10 of greatest movies is going to be one thing. A Rushmore of greatest movies is going to be a complete
impossible.
other. So, and I think we wouldn't do justice to the brand that is Silver Screeners by locking in 4 that could.
Oh, well, no, I'm saying Jaws would be in the argument.
All right, that I can agree with.
I'm not locking anything into a list we haven't even made. Right, I mean, exactly. I might look at that list and go, you know what, Jaws aren't even in the top 10.
There you go.
I don't know. But in my mind right now, Jaws would be my argument for that. But I'd agree with you. I wouldn't put Jaws as a horror movie icon. But some ways I would, because I don't know a movie which has globally messed more people up.
I do.
Yeah, The Exorcist.
Yeah, and another one, which is quite low, but again, it's due. There were arguments to
Go
it.
on.
The Shining.
Yeah. Shining, I'd put. See, there's arguments you have among some fans, and there's always, like, now we're talking about a top 10 horror, and you talk horror, we talk horror off camera. Shining was one of the first that we mentioned before even seeing this great list of movies that we had to come. Yeah. For that reason alone, the fact that it's just so prevalent in your mind.
Yeah, again, people say, like, you said The Shining and he's at number 7. Because
number 2 for me.
Yeah, it's because of how powerful the others were in their timing.
But some of these stand the test. Exorcist stands. Yeah. Shining stands. Freddy doesn't scare me, but he stands.
He stands. Even Jaws. Jaws I put above
stands.
That. It stands and it's there.
But it can go into so many other categories.
Yeah, The Shining goes into categories as well. But on top of that, The Shining stands, but it's the first time you watch Jaws. Yeah. It's the first time you watch Dracula. It's the first time, it's the weirdness of Chucky that does it. We're talking a possessed man, and that's why it was so high. Don't think, that I have to explain why it was so high up, but fits into Rushmore. It's a guaranteed lock. No. Jack Nicholson. No one can look at Jack Nicholson as a sane man due to him playing Johnny.
Here's Johnny.
And that's why. So we've got
Jack. He wasn't called Johnny. He was called
Jack. Yeah, which makes it even more scary because it's like, hold on.
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, right?
But I say Johnny because of the here's Johnny. Jack Nicholson playing Jack.
That was ad-libbed. Did you know that?
Yeah,
that wasn't scripted.
That's one thing I do know. But if there was an ad-lib, that's the one. So that's 3. Those are 3.
I've got 2 I have in mind for 4. I'm thinking Alien. Because of that chestburster scene.
Go with the next one. Let me hear your next one and I'll see.
An American Werewolf in London because of that morphing scene. And I'm not saying it has to be one of those 2. Let me hear what your counter is with some others.
I'm listening. The one
it's one of those things. If you wanted to argue that Alien, the same way as I said you can't have an argument with in horror without talking Shining and Exorcist and Freddy, right? I would say that you can have an argument in horror without talking Alien, but as you've been saying, you arguably can't have an argument in sci-fi without talking Alien.
Sci-fi, and again, you mentioned it.
I don't really call it a monster movie.
It's difficult.
Alien is like a serial killer. He's not a monster in the stereotypical way. But now, I don't think you can have an argument in horror without talking an American Werewolf in London. That's another movie that messed people up.
Here's one, it wasn't on your list, and this is why it's going to be very difficult for me to convince you.
Go on.
Child's Play. Look at the element of Chucky. Chucky stands very prominent, very, very close even to Freddy.
That's why I wouldn't put him on.
You wouldn't put him in there.
Because then the argument comes, why are we putting him and not Jason in?
Yeah, but then it comes to why didn't we put Halloween in there?
Bingo, which is why I think you take all of those guys, you know, the Doll, Nightmare Boy, Jason,
I think
Mike Myers. Of all of those, I don't think it's beyond argument that Krueger's the one that stands out. And I think if we're covering that element of horror, we've already done it with Freddy, which is why I wouldn't put Child's Play in there.
This is something I'm going to go with. There's the sequels and how bad they are, how good they are. And, you know, the Paranoid Defeat, everything. And when you talk about mind control, and I really don't
You're
want to
not
get
saying
into
Carrie.
No. Carrie is my number 10. Carrie has to be mentioned, but it's not there. I'm talking Child's Play here.
Yeah, okay.
This is one that quite sticks to me, as much as I'm willing to take Jason off the table and what have you. Let's look at Chucky. Let's look at this. And this is very UK based, and I really don't want to touch into it. But it scared me even to watch Child's Play.
Oh, yeah?
Right? Before, because I was kind of late when it came to Child's Play.
Okay.
I really don't want to get into stuff, and it could be very traumatic to people watching this. As a kid, and I'm sure you were born here as well, do you remember the story of Jamie Bolger?
No.
That's the young kid who was taken away from a mall from his parents, and it's seen on camera where he's taken, and two young guys have taken this young kid and murdered him by train tracks. That was the influence of Chucky. It was Child's
but then
Play.
you've got to stick Texas Chainsaw Massacre in there, because that was actually a real story. That wasn't an influence. That was a real story. It was a real
story, and you know what? There are even elements where you can even go into the Silence of the Lamb and its level of it's based on real.
Reaching.
It's reaching. No. It's reaching, I guarantee. But I look at it and I just. But then the thing is, here we go. Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't something you were looking to put on. It's something I would possibly consider, but it wasn't there enough for us. Chucky.
Oh, I'm not putting Texas Chainsaw in, but I am holding out for an American Werewolf in London as the number 4 spot.
I could go for that over
Child's Play.
Over Alien.
Yeah.
I could go for that over Alien. The American Werewolf in London is it's up there in the iconics. If we have to do iconic characters, it would stand there quite.
Do you know why I think it should be in there? Because on the 3 that we've covered various aspects. Iconicity and horror character. You know, we've had to choose between Jason, Chucky, Freddy, Mike Myers. We've gone with Freddy. We've gone with overall mess the nation up fear factor. We've had Jaws, we've had The Exorcist, we've gone with The Exorcist. We've had psychological elements, Silence of the Lambs, The Shining, we've Isolation, we've gone with The Shining, yeah? We haven't got a scene which is in horror legend status in our list.
That's why Werewolf takes over Dracula, I'll give you that. In that element of the fantasy,
because we have to make a list that covers all different elements of horror.
And Chucky's
and
Freddy. He's in that element.
We need a scene.
It needs to be not only a scene, but it's the various angles.
A line we've got
horror.
Also. Here's Johnny. We've got the line.
Yeah, well, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each film has that's too many expletives in Exorcist. They've all got their iconic line.
Too many.
Yeah, way too many.
There has to be a movie which is in there.
I will give you.
You could even throw The Thing in there, but I don't think it's iconic enough.
No, it's not. It's not. And I respect The Thing, even though it's not on my list. It's not in my honourables. On the element of the, I will say, fantasy horror.
Sure.
Fantasy horror of
Dracula's, mummies,
zombies, Dracula, and it's what you will remember most on the element of Halloween.
Child horror, if for lack of a better word. Kiddie horror, monsters.
Monster horror. Yeah, exactly. Coming right back to it. Monster horror.
Dracula is the most iconic. We've already said that. But the one that messed me up the most.
Movie, and nothing against Gary Oldman, performance of a lifetime, guaranteed. I will agree with you on that. But it would not scare me. It did not scare me.
No, nor
as
me.
much as
An American Werewolf in London.
And because we're covering, and only because we're covering all aspects of horror.
That's
because
2 weeks in a row!
No. No, I will not go on 2 weeks.
I
in a row.
withdraw.
It cannot be 2 weeks in a row because it's the elements. Because when I stick to it and I look at the elements of what Chucky done on a very personal level, it scared me.
Okay.
It scared me of a fact of, oh my god, this guy's done that. From a real factual point of view. And yes, Chainsaw Massacre is based
horrible,
as close as based on a true story as you can get, and graphical, very, very graphical horror. There's so many, but if we have to go for 4 and we have to cover all elements, and you think of horror, you think of monsters. So you have to have a monster character in there. So it's not a 2 in a row, but yes, on that on that element, and on that element alone, on that element alone, an American Werewolf in London, not the rest. Again, the sequels went bad.
Right. Our Mount Rushmore, our official Mount Rushmore of horror movies.
In first
Ava
place.
Z, Ava Z, are you watching?
Right.
Are you listening?
The number 1, and Ava, I'm sure you've seen it, and if you haven't seen it, it's to be seen. And anyone else out there who hasn't seen it, to be seen. The jitters, the possessing, the whoa. The thing that made him take a week of school nearly. The Exorcist.
Oh yeah.
My number 1 film. At number 2, the elements, the icon that is horror of the 80s, which is also blown up and mad.
Your number 1?
Yeah, my number. It was
Yeah,
my
your
number 1.
number 1
but
is
it's
our number 2.
Yeah, number 2 in the Rushmore. Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger. Would you like to go with the 3 and 4?
3 and 4. Well, one of them is my number 4. That is an American Werewolf in London. And one of them is my number 2, and that is The Shining.
Yeah, The Shining.
You want to understand the horror genre, watch those 4.
Most definitely.
And get ready to not sleep for a very
Don't
long
watch them all
time.
in one. Don't watch them all in one. I would never suggest that to anyone.
You'll need rehab. You'll need help after that.
It's intense. It's
And if you don't,
talking.
big up yourself. Because you're a bigger man or bigger woman than we are, apparently.
Oh, yeah. It's been fun.
It's been hard. It's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been horrific.
And it's gone over the time we expected it to.
Way over. And on that bombshell.
Yeah. Comment below, because I'm sure we're going to get a lot of stick.
We want to know what your top 10 is,
we've
guys.
justified it. I do believe that we've justified it in a way. I thought we was going to debate more. It's funny and
funny
lucky
how it's come together.
We only debated on the last slot. The first 3 really came together, and it was there, and it couldn't be denied.
Yeah,
there was a bit of debate on the 4th, but there are so many. And as we said earlier, go back to the 60s.
Remember, guys, we did 70s, 80s, and 90s. There's a load of modern classics.
Yeah.
Pre-2000, post-2000, post-2010. Pre-70s. All throughout the 1960s, there's classics. We couldn't put it all into one top 10. We could easily have done a top 10 for each of the generations. We want to know what your top 10 is.
I just want to throw it in before anything else. Psycho. It's 60s, but check it. Psycho. That's horror. But yeah.
Psychological thriller, open for debate and argument.
Yeah.
Guys, let us know what your top 10 is. Let us know what you think of our list. Let us know what you think of our Mount Rushmore.
We're willing to debate this even further because it's big. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you,
Ava, for the suggestion.
2 thumbs up to Ava, 4 thumbs up for Ava. Thank you very much for that. We are going to leave you with our usual spiel of please like us on Facebook. You can let us know what your top 10 is there. Follow us on Twitter. Share what your top 10 is there. Hit us up on Instagram. Send us some pics of your favorite horror movies, all right?
That's the one. So for myself, Anthony Jordan, aka AJ.
From myself, Nicola Rowe.
Signing out.
See you guys.